Good day, fish tankers. You've got the list from my last video. You're off to the aquarium store. You got everything for your first tank. And now the store assistant wants to sell you a master test kit, a aquarium water test kit like one of these, or maybe test strips like this, and you've already stretched the budget and you're asking yourself, hey, do I really need these test kits? I knew nothing about that. Now my answer is I highly recommend them. The liquid test kits that use the reagents, they were more accurate. People say that the test strips aren't accurate, but I've tested them with the liquid test kits, and my favorite is the JBL test strips. This particular brand, as well as the Tetra, and to a lesser extent the Higa, are reasonably accurate. They're going to give you an idea what's going on. But the question is, do I really need to have them? I've said I highly recommend them. But what if your budget is blown, or you're just like I was, a kid starting out his first aquarium? I didn't have any test kits. There is a way where you can sort of get by without a test kit, a sort of a survival way. And although I don't recommend it, I'm just going to give you a few pointers if you have no other option of what to do. If that sounds interesting, then stick around. Okay. Now a master test kit like this one usually measures pH, GH or KH and nitrite and nitrate, and sometimes ammonia as well. A bottle of test strips is going to set you back the master test kit for all the tests. The liquid one, which I think is a more accurate one, it's about 1,400 and something rand, and this is about just under 500 rand. As I've said, people say these aren't accurate, but they'll give you a general idea. They're definitely better than nothing. The JBL ones, the Tetra ones are okay. I've tested the Higa ones. They're a bit difficult to manage. I much prefer the JBL ones. And in America, I know you've got the API master test kit. In the UK as well, we've got them here in South Africa as well. That's another brand of this. It's also more or less the same. It's somewhere close to 1,500 rand. So it does get expensive, I know that. But this is now about what do I do when I've got the tank set up and everything's running, but somehow I don't have test kits available to me. Now I would suggest is, if you can afford one test kit, just get a pH test kit. That is a very simple test kit, and it's the cheapest one as well. But even if you don't, then most stores will at least offer you to test your pH of your water. Now what I would do is, and what you're going to do probably anyway, is go to the aquarium store closest to you. They should have the same water characteristics. I'm going to leave two videos in the end screen and in the description below, and one will be about water characteristics, and one will be about the most important thing that you need to know in fish tanks and in aquarium keeping, so you don't crash your cycle. More about that later. But what I would do then is I would take some water out of your tap. I will let it stand for a day or two, and then I'll test the pH, or take it to the shop, let them test the pH. Why let it stand for a day or two? Because mostly, if your pH is higher, if it's neutral to alkaline, and if it's an alkaline side, let's say 7.5 to 8 and upwards, you're most likely to have hard water. And if it's acidic below 7, you're most likely to have soft water, so your GH and your KH will be lower. But sometimes you get water that comes out of a tap at 7 or alkaline even, and there is no carbonate ion, there's no KH, and then after a few days the pH drops dramatically. That's why I say let the water stand, because in such a case, if that's the case with your particular water, then you will know. Then you have an idea what your pH is after a day or two, so allowing for the fact that I've just mentioned that the KH might be low, and then you know to keep fish according to that. Then go, as I've said in my previous video, go and Google the nitrogen cycle or cycling a tank. So what I would do, I'll make sure that your tank has, now why you need the ammonia and the nitrite and the nitrate test kits, you test. There's ammonia in the water, you can't put in fish. There's nitrite in the water, you can't put in fish. That's as a new tank develops beneficial bacteria, and when you have a bit of nitrate, then you know, okay, it's time to put in fish. What I used to do when I was a kid, we didn't have ammonia, nitrite and nitrate test kits. I would just let the aquarium run on its own with the plants in, with everything running, and putting in just a pinch of food. Ghost feeding is what you call it, to get some ammonia are going to provide some food for bacteria, I'll leave it for 4 weeks and then I'll stock very slowly. So if you're going to have 20 fish in the tank, eventually start with 3 or 5, and then after 2 weeks you add another 5 and so on, and you stock very slowly. And that way, after I understood that there's such a thing as a nitrogen cycle, even though I didn't have a test kit, I didn't have any trouble because I did things very slowly. So that is one way you can get past that. Now, the other thing why one wants to know what your nitrate levels are, at least in the beginning, is to determine when to do a water change. Now, if you don't have them, then what I would do, if your tank is fully stocked, if there's quite a lot of fish in, I would change a third of my water every week. If there's not many fish in, change about a third of your water every second week. Now, it could be that you're changing too much water. It could be that you're changing slightly too less, although too little, but that is unlikely. If you stick to that, then you should be okay. So that's a way you can get around it. Now, the other thing is, that's why test kits are important. If there's something wrong with your aquarium and the fish are dying, then how do you know what is wrong with our test kits? If you do have a fish all gasping at the surface and there's no external signs of disease, chances are you had a cycle crash. Now you've got ammonia, and you've got ammonia and or nitrite in the water. Now, there's a way to avoid it. Once I've learned what the nitrogen cycle was, that you can't just put fish in a new tank, and you can't take your filter and replace all the media at once or wash it under hot tap water. I've never in decades ever had another crash of a cycle with either ammonia or a nitrite spike. I'm going to leave that video for you in the end screen and in the description. So that's it, guys. If you don't have test kits, try and get at least a pH test kit. If you can't do that, let the water stand for 2 days or so. Take it to your pet store and let them test the pH. Then you'll know more or less what water characteristics you have. And if it's a new tank, let that tank just run for at least 4 weeks after adding a pinch of food, and then stock very slowly. That way you should be able to pull it off. But as I've said, it's nice to have. These tanks behind me, I hardly ever test them. I know what they are. They're very mature and well tuned in. Sometimes, like in my big tank where the fish are growing now bigger, some bigger fish in there like Siamese algae eaters and angels and a few clown loaches. As they grew bigger, I tested my nitrate and I realized, okay, I need to do maybe a bit bigger or more often partial water changes. With nitrate is creeping up a little bit. But if I were to do a water change in that tank every week of a third of water, or even every second week, I'll still be completely fine. So you can sort of tune it in like that. Guys, if it was helpful, please remember to smash that like button. And remember, there's still a discount code, although it's not a sponsored video, of Jungle Aquatics in the description. If you're in South Africa, you can use that for 10% once-off discount and maybe get yourself some test kits. That is a good idea how to use it. It's only valid until September, so jump on that. Please remember to share the video. If somebody else could use a bit of discount to buy a test kit, or just to know how you can go about managing your water. And then, guys, also remember to watch the videos about water characteristics and the most important thing that you need to know about fish keeping. That's going to be in the end screen. And thank you very much for subscribing. Please consider doing so. And until I see you again, take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.